Wache, additional Hassan, Sahakutan, Gashishan Ishku, Mayingando Dam, Omishkigo. Hello, everyone. Once again, I announce myself in my ancestral language, stating that my ancestral name is Shadow Hawk Woman. I'm from the Wolf Clan, and my ancestry is Omishkigo, hailing from Attawabascat. Today, I want to talk about emotional integrity and where I think the most important work on that lies. You know, emotional integrity is not about a performative thing that you do in front of other people or in meetings. It's a daily practice that you do with yourself. And it's really about understanding where you're at and what's going on for you emotionally. You know, we're working, especially this time of year, it's extremely busy for the university, for everybody, students, staff, and faculty. And we're often having to just focus on that high workload and not tend to ourselves on a regular basis. So we get influx of thoughts thinking, you know, oh, is this, you know, if we're exasperated, we're thinking, is this really what I want to be doing? And that's just a question that goes through our mind and we don't pay any attention to it, or we think I'm really exhausted and we push that out of our mind. So much of our own personal needs in our day-to-day work kind of takes a back seat. And what I'm trying to encourage each of you to do, and I have to, it's a real deliberate act, a real practice, is to pay attention to those thoughts that fall into your head. Pay attention to where you are. And I'll give you some examples of what I mean. There's various subcontexts that come up when I'm having, particularly one-on-one conversations with people. You know, there's the whole thing about where people are in their careers, and it's been a very complex, multi-layered event that we've been through for the last 2 years, 9 months, calling COVID, where we've all taken a really evaluative look at our own lives and what do we want to do. But we're so busy, I hear people think, oh, even if I wanted to do something else, I don't have time to look at it. I don't have time to invest into where at the university or outside the university and what I want to be doing with my life. We have to make time for that. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time, just even a few minutes, sitting down and putting pen to paper or meditating with yourself to really ask those questions so that you don't feel that you're always pushing your needs, your wants, your desires to the side. The other thing that I see really happening is we have a lot of people who are in their midlife, so in their 50s, really starting to look at where are they investing their time and energy and how do they feel about that? Because a lot of us who have chosen a professional career, which requires a lot of attention, meant that we made a lot of sacrifices in our personal life. I hear people talking about, you know, they work 60 hours a week to get the information to build up their career. And that meant a lot of being away from family, maybe missing things with kids, or maybe even deciding for a lot of people that kids weren't in the cards for them, that it wasn't something that they could make time for with their career choices and family, because both are very high and demanding of your time and of your energy. So there's a lot of self-evaluation that comes around, usually in the midlife, but for a lot of people now, am I doing the right thing for me? Those are questions you really need to ask yourself. On our worst days, we're thinking, I just don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. And it's good to entertain that, because sometimes when we start to look around, we think, oh, well, you know, I could be going from the frying pan into the fire. Sorry, that's an old term. But, you know, it could be worse, staying with the devil you know than going with the devil you don't know, those kinds of things. But we really need to take the time out to explore that with ourselves. It's really important to, if you can find someone in your life that you can explore these things with, a colleague, a friend, someone of like mind. You know, we often have many friends in our lives. Each one brings us certain set of skills or things that, you know, like I've said before, if I wanted to go to the theater, I know who I'd call. If I wanted to have a spiritual conversation, I know who I would talk to. So it's really important that we have someone that we can do that with. And if you don't, counseling is a good place to have a counselor, not someone that you have to see on a regular basis. I've seen counselors over the years on a regular basis, and I've had the particular counselor that I have now for, oh geez, about 15 years. And she's kind of on an as needs basis. I'll reach out and say, can I have an appointment? And it's just mostly, it's just for me to have an opportunity to muse with someone who's not invested in the outcome of what I'm going to do. That's really important, because our friends and our family are going to want to support us in our choices and might not ask us the hard questions. And sometimes we need someone to really listen and just ask those hard questions and encourage us to take a more fulsome kind of look at what it is we're musing around. The other thing I think is really important is we have to make a commitment to this relationship of emotional integrity, because emotional integrity is not about being consistent everywhere. It's about being emotionally available to yourself in everyday situations. For example, we've all been in meetings where somebody says something or somebody reacts in some way and we get triggered that makes us angry. And we think, oh, I don't want to say anything. We have the luxury now of being able to turn our camera off and pull ourselves together. But we have to get to that place of being comfortable with having our emotions. I spoke to someone not too long ago and said, oh, I really lost it in a meeting. And further examination, their idea of losing in a meeting was to show that they were irritated and upset. They weren't abusive. They didn't call anyone out. They didn't call any names, but they just allowed themselves to be angry and to address what was making them angry. And the response was that everybody after said, oh, I'm so glad that you did that. We tend to sit feeling these things. And when we're in big meetings, we don't tend to want to rock it. Well, if you really think about the kind of person you would want to have in your life that you could trust, it would be somebody who's able to be really real with you. And so we need to learn to offer that as well, to be able to say whatever it is you need to say in a way that's not offensive or abusive, but to be able to speak our truths. We live in a culture that teaches us from the very moment that we draw breath that we have to be quiet about how we're feeling. And I think the pandemic has really opened the doorway to recognize that we have to start being more open and more honest and have emotional integrity, being able to feel, and we have to make the evaluation. Sometimes somebody triggers me on something and I really have to evaluate, is this really something that I'm angry at this person about? Or is it something that I'm angry about my past that got triggered there? That's the emotional integrity, where you do that kind of thinking about it in the moment. And then if no, you need to address this, giving yourself the courage to address it and to not worry about how other people are going to respond, because other people will have their own reactions. But the more comfortable we get with our own ability to recognize that our responses may be different than others, then we can make room for others' responses that are different to ours. Discourse does not mean, as I've said before, someone is right and someone is wrong. It's about two different points of view, two different experiences. But the emotional integrity I'm speaking about is being emotionally integral with yourself. Know what you're feeling, know that you're really tired and maybe a bit grumpy, whatever the reasons are, acknowledging that. I often am in meetings, I keep pen and paper, not so much to take notes, but to write down things that may be irritating me in the meeting, things of how I'm feeling that I just need to get out, but I don't need to say out loud. That's also important. Understand yourself. What do you need to feel that you're being emotionally integral with yourself, that you're taking care of yourself emotionally throughout your day? Once again, our culture is only beginning to recognize the importance of emotional health through emotional expression. And the more comfortable you get with being a feeling sanctioned human being, the more comfortable you'll be with sharing that. And those kinds of conversations with people that you can be real with are so much deeper, so much richer, when you can have moments in a group where everybody is just being honest it changes the dynamic of things. So the emotional integrity, remember that you're seeking is to be emotionally integral with yourself, and therefore you can be emotionally integral other places. We cannot give to others what we don't have ourselves. I can't offer you emotional integrity when you sit with me if I am not being emotionally integral to myself. Sometimes we're afraid of being angry. Sometimes we're afraid of being hurt. That's okay. That's normal. That's natural. But finding a way, if you don't know how to say something, ask yourself how you could hear it. You know, we've got a pretty good resource here just inside self. And please remember that, you know, we're at a place like TMU, we have so many other tentacles out to other people that we need to have coming in either on decisions or even simply to make something happen. That's great. But to be integral with self, then you can be integral and honest with them. Feeling inadequate is very important to acknowledge and recognize within yourself. Because if we're feeling inadequate, then we won't push ourselves forward. But if you're feeling inadequate and then you come in and you say to yourself, it's okay, this may be a new field that you're going to talk about. You might not know exactly what you're going to be addressing, but don't be afraid to ask the questions. You know, we have to keep fear in its perspective. We naturally need fear so we don't walk off the cliff or we don't stick our hand in the fire. But the kind of fear that kind of gets in our way is a little acronym that I have around fear, false evidence appearing real. And those are the feels that scream in your ears, oh, don't do it because. And then you address all those reasons because. So what's the worst thing that can happen? How would I handle that? And then you move forward. And you'll get better at doing this in the moment. You know, I'm making it sound pretty easy, but I've had many decades of practice getting to a place of being able to speak my emotional integrity. And it simply means my ability to be real and take the risk that who I am isn't going to please everyone, because I'm not pleased by everyone. That's just human response. But when you can have emotional integrity with yourself, and at the end of the day, spending a few minutes to ask yourself, so how was your day? How did you do? And you know, you're going to think of all the things still on your plate to be addressed, like that numbers of emails keep piling up every day that you've got to address these, Yes, there's always going to be stuff that we can't get done in a day, but take pride in the stuff that you did do during that day. Sometimes we have to triage our days. You know, if it's not bleeding, then we can maybe put it off until later. But just know yourself, follow that emotional integrity with yourself, and you will find that you will invite emotional integrity from other people, and you will feel even that a good job was done when maybe it was uncomfortable, but a good job was done. The human capacity to emote is endless. The intention, what is your motive and intention, is paramount in navigating the minefield of feelings so that we're not giving more damage or causing more judgment. You know, treat people the way you want to be treated. That's usually a good barometer. Don't do things that you wouldn't expect others to ask of you or others to do. Don't put higher standards for yourself than for others. I hope that this helps give you some insight, and this is something that we can constantly keep readdressing, but find a way to really be there for yourself. Practice your emotional integrity with yourself, and it'll just fall into place with everyone else. I really hope that you find this helpful and insightful in some way, and it helps you recognize the importance of who you are and the footprint that you leave on the earth and in the work that you do. So thank you very much for taking the time out to listen, and I wish you a very good day. And I say Chimiigwech. Thank you.